On the outside, always looking in. Will I ever be more than I've always been? 'Cause I'm tapping on the glass. I'm waving through a window. I try to speak, but nobody can hear. So I wait around for an answer to appear while I'm watching people pass. I'm waving through a window. Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, when you're broken on the ground.
Nowadays, it's hard to find someone who has never heard of the show Dear Evan Hansen. And it's not hard to see why. Dear Evan Hansen tackles real matters while still being a fun musical. It's really depressing in some parts, but more than uplifting in others. Its tagline, "You will be found," is something that nearly every person in the United States can really appreciate. Not everyone thinks that they fit in where they are in life. Not everyone has a certain amount of friends or someone they can go to. Sometimes it's easy to think that you are alone, but this musical really tackles that it's not true. That there always is someone else who really does feel what you feel. You're never alone. This musical for me is a little more personal. Now, while I love Newsies, this might be the best musical ever. Now, don't get me wrong, I still love Newsies, and on a biased note, it's still probably my favorite, but unbiased, it's hard to not think that this is better than Newsies. Dear Evan Hansen is about this young man, Evan Hansen, who has to write notes to himself every day to help him with his therapy. Hence the title, Dear Evan Hansen. And it's not hard to see why people can really relate to this character. He's not the famous kid in school. He's not the jock. He's not the hottest. He's not the most popular. He's just a typical guy. Who sadly made a bad decision. When a kid named Connor Murphy found his note, he kept it with him. And when Connor Murphy committed suicide, his note was found. Now, everyone believed that Evan's note was to Connor, not to himself. And instead of coming forward and telling the truth, Evan kind of went along with it. And even though it's a bad decision, you kind of feel for him. You're okay with it. Even though you know it's a bad idea. He just needs a win. He lost his dad, and his mom is so busy, she barely has time to be with him. And even though his mom is super busy, she is one of the most redeeming characters in this show.
And the house felt so big, and I felt so small. The house felt so big, and I knew there would be moments that I'd miss, and I knew there would be space I couldn't fill, and I knew I'd come up short a million different ways, and I did.
Every character in the show is amazing. They're so well written, and they just really form such a perfect ensemble. So when Connor Murphy died, his parents really didn't know what to do. They were really lost. So what they did was they kind of gave Evan a surrogate family. They took him in as he was the last person they believed was in touch with their son. And Evan, not really having a family like this, jumped at the opportunity. And it didn't help that the girl he had a secret crush on for a long time was the daughter of the Murphys. So this was his way of getting a surrogate family and the girl that he loved for a long time to spend time with him. And it's hard not to root for him, even though he made a bad decision. Because you, the audience, feel and root for him. Dear Evan Hansen premiered on July 10th, 2015 on Broadway. And it was written by Pasek and Paul, who, I got to meet. And the book was written by Stephen Livingston. And, wow, this musical was loved by everyone immediately. It won 6 Tonys, and it even won a Grammy for the Best Music Theater Album. And Pasek and Paul didn't slow down. They ended up going on to write La La Land and The Greatest Showman, which we may see on this series at some point. Dear Evan Hansen can be loved by all ages because everyone needs to hear this story. I believe this is the best musical ever made, and I know I'm not the only one. This musical has been on Broadway since 2015. It now has a US tour and a Toronto tour. It has scheduled tours all around the world, and the cast in the polo shirt has even been inducted into the Smithsonian Museum. There's no stopping the Dear Evan Hansen train, and I'm okay with that. This is one of my favorite shows, and I do believe this, Dear Evan Hansen, is the best musical ever.
You will be found